Welcome to moving day. We got all the furniture aligned here on the curb. It's not going to the trash, it's going inside of the building. So you can be happy with that. But, anyways, we're going to populate this building with all these kinds of furniture models. And these models are super simple. I made them all really basic, really low poly, no external textures. At this level, at this stage of the design, we don't need anything crazy. And, they're just boxes with a little bit of bevels here and there, sometimes even without bevels. And the most complicated thing is this kitchen, which requires a Boolean box to remove and create this kind of thing. Let me know if you're interested actually in the comments if you're interested in knowing more about how these are modeled. So what are we going towards? So we're going to go towards something like this, which is populating all the inside minus some walls moving, including the walls which are, really easy to move. That's what I need because I want to play with different kinds of settings. I don't think anybody is like stopped at designing this. So for this previous iteration, which is not the one that we're doing, the one we're doing is a little bit bigger, but for this one, I did a bunch of sketches about potential plans, right? So we got a mix of one bedroom, so a single bedroom suite. This one is the same, which is mirrored. A 2-bedroom suite in a corner with a cut through from the solid facade, 1 bedroom and a 3-bedroom, including the stair and the lift being on one side. Now, in this smaller iteration, this works because, that distance is okay from the exit door to here. But in this bigger building, so let's just compare here. The distance from one side, for if the corridor runs from here to here, might be too much for the lift to be in there. So we would need an entrance somewhere in the center. How do we enter? Probably not on the side, probably somewhere like in the back, I would even say, maybe we have like some access into here or to the side. Maybe we can create. I won't worry too much about the entrance, but I do want to kind of sketch out in a similar manner to what we've got here. In fact, I won't really sketch it out because we'll be just using this as a guide in here, where we have sometimes a single module, which is for a bedroom, which is quite a generous bedroom, and then the living space, and then the bathroom that's tucked in behind this. This is the ideal one, and the 3-bedroom one, which is the same but with some extra space, especially wherever we have the stairs. So before we get started with all of that, we have to utilize these in the best possible way, and that is with groups. However, the base situation in Blender with groups is not terribly good. Basically any collection could be a group, but then you have to worry about exactly where the center is and so on. However, there is one add-on which has become one of my favorite add-ons. Let's see, which is called something groups. Let's see, where is it? Groups, quick groups. And that comes from the extensions website. It's really good. I really enjoy it because we can press Ctrl G to create a group. And once we're done creating a group, we can click Tab to go and enter into it. So here I have an example. So again, it's called quick groups. So I have a table and I have 4 chairs, and all those 4 chairs are linked. So we have 4 instances of the chairs. Now let's select all of those and press Ctrl G. And as you can see, it's already a perfect group that's over here. Let's call this kitchen, or rather dining set. And that's absolutely perfect. If I click Tab, it's already created them in a new scene. We haven't talked much about scenes because they can get a bit complex, but it's perfectly centered, and in here it has preserved the same kind of hierarchy that we had before. If I click Tab, I'm back into there. Absolutely brilliant way. It works in many ways like SketchUp, like groups in SketchUp. And the same thing here. So we have a complex kitchen layout that I'm going to select all the elements. Let's make sure they're all selected. I have forgotten something. So an easier thing would be just to hide everything and select it that way. Okay. And Control G. We also have some options over here. So instance name, we can change it. We can change it right away. So we can call this kitchen. And instead of using medium point, we're going to use the active object. And it's the last object that I selected that I know works really well. Great. We've got a door here as well. Technically, that's a single object. It doesn't really need to be a group, but I find it better in case we want to have these as separate components. So Control G, and let's call it door. And then we have a TV shelf. Control G, living TV shelf. Okay. We've got a sofa, chase sofa. I just want to make sure that the face orientation is correct. It is. Here it's not. So Alt-N, we calculate outside. Alt-N, we calculate outside. Exit. Everything else is good. So uncheck this here. And again, I've modeled this always a single object, but I find it better just to make sure that I don't accidentally duplicate data as a group. Especially now that with this add-on, it makes it so easy. So we're going to call this sofa. And then we have a bed, king size bed. So with 2 night shelves, let's move them a little closer to the actual bed. Select them all. Make this the last active object. Control G. Bed set. So now we've got, and one more element here, which is basically some kind of shelving for the bedroom. So Control G, that's again in case we want to add some decorative elements on top of there. If we do it just in one place, it's going to appear on all of them. And this is bed shelf. Great. So now we've got all of our furniture. Let's select it and move it to a new layer, M, new collection, and call it interiors. And you can see that they're all collections that are linked nicely together. And the next thing we're going to do is set up a view so we can modify things a little easier. So we're going to do that with another add-on, which is called Measure It Arc. So you have to search and get it from GitHub. So Measure It Arc add-on. So it's in here. And you download, well, you basically download the whole code as a zip file, and then you can install that by going into add-ons in here, and you click this little arrow, install from disk, and then you go to your downloads folder and you click on the zip file and it downloads it for you. Once it is enabled, what can we do? It has a lot of options which all live in the scene. So here you have Measure It Arc. I just renamed it Tool, so it's a little bit simpler. And we can create different kinds of views. And let's create a new view now. And let's create a new camera. I'm going to create just another camera. Go into setup and say here, Shift A, camera. So it's facing down. It should be facing down. So let's change this angle. So it's all 0. There you go. And I'm going to rename it to say cam plan, cam floor 01. So now that camera is linked to floor 01. However, we need to do that in the scene here. So in these scene settings here, we have the camera. So we have to select the right one, cam floor 01. So now that is linked. Now we go into the view settings. And in here, we want to use 150 dpi resolution and paper size, let's try A2 landscape. And you can see how our camera is being adjusted. Now we need to change the scale. So we go to scale mode, metric, and we want to use, let's see, 1 to 100 or 1 to 50. So 1 to 50 is too small. So we're going to use 1 to 100. Okay. And now if we move this plan down and let's make it active and we go to the camera view, we can see how we've got our camera set up. Now we might need to move it a little bit higher, but that's right. We don't actually have floor plates on the inside yet to be able to do this. So that's what the camera looks like. And we're ready to start modeling the architecture part, the internal architecture part. Now within here, we also want to set up a couple more things that will be important, but maybe actually does have them already set up. So we want to set up a dimension style, an annotation style, and a line style, which are going to get used. And this is how we generate drawings like this. And this is a mixture between a rendered background in Eevee and then vector data for the walls. And it's fantastic because you get the best of both worlds and you stay in the same software. Now you can also do things like dimensions and areas, but in this case, we're just going to start with the walls. And even before the walls, we're going to start with our floor plates. Okay, so let's go in here now and just click somewhere, Shift A, Mesh Plane, go into edit mode, and let's make this the width that it needs to be. And extend this out. We're going to do it floor by floor. In fact, we won't even cover all the floors because as long as we know how to do one floor, the other floors are exactly the same. Let's snap that so it comes to the inside of that line and also here. So we don't have more than we need to. And now let's grab the whole thing and extrude it minus 0.5. Select everything, O10 to recalculate outside, and let's call this slab floor or just FL01. So now we've got a slab, which we can also see over here. We're going to need a lift, so Shift A, Mesh, Plane, 2 by 2 meters. That's very generous space, so let's go with 1.6 by 1.6 meters. And we're going to position that somewhere near the front, so somewhere over here. And let's make sure that this is at 0. Apply the scale, Control A, scale, go into edit mode and extrude that all the way up. And yes, we picked a good position because it does need to be in the tallest part because we do need to get to the highest area. Excellent. So we got the lift. And I'm just going to create a new material that's called core, and that's just going to be slightly darker so we can see it a bit better. Okay. And now let's duplicate this. Let's go back in here. Shift D. Put it somewhere over here. And this is going to be our stairs. That would need to be a little bit bigger. So the Y dimension should be at least 3 meters. Well, maybe 2.5 meters. And the X dimension, something like 4 meters. So that's about the stairs. So we have landings on either side and then stairs about 1.2 meters each on each side. Now let's see where this is lined up. Yep, that's all right. Great. So the stair might come in here like that. So this is the center line. So from the center, we're going to have a corridor that's about 1.4 meters wide, so that needs to come over here. So right away, I'm noticing our building might not be wide enough. So what I'm going to do is just model one side for now. And then depending on, yeah, we can really easily adjust the width of this actually at this point. But we need to start doing a bit of layouts to understand whether the scale is correct or not. And before we do all those layouts, we need to start doing some walls. Okay, so now I should be snapping. Where is this 3D cursor? Okay, it's not snapping in the right place. That's okay. Let's snap over here. So we have the 3D cursor in the correct place. Let's go to the floor plan, Shift A, Mesh, Plane. Delete on, well, let's delete one vertex over here or edge, X, edge. And we're going to do a couple of things here now. So first off, we're going to add a screw modifier. So screw, and screw, it took me a long time to understand that you don't need to have just something that looks like a screw with an angle, which is essentially a spiral. Instead, you can also use it as an extrude or kind of like a sweep profile. So the height of this is, I don't know what we use for 3 meters height to height. So 2.8 meters high, and the steps is just 1, and we want to turn off smooth shading and turn on calculate. And if we look at it now, this has an extrusion. Next, we want to add a solidify modifier. That should come exactly at the middle, even thickness, and that's going to be 0.2 meters wide. That's it. So that's how we model our walls. So really nice and really straightforward. So now let's start to position these walls in the correct place. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are working with the modules of 4 meters here, if you remember. So I'm going to do a Shift S and selection to grid, so it snaps nicely. Now let's enable the increment grid here as well, just so everything does line up really nicely. So next, let's move this 4 meters. That's 3 meters, 4 meters. Okay, and start to adjust this accordingly. So we're going to move these walls here, and so this is going to be the bedroom. So let's duplicate this, rotate it 180, and start putting in the furniture in the correct place. And I find that when we have the furniture in the right place, that's when things really start to snap. And this is going to be at 4 meters tall. I believe that's the height of our wall. And now let's add the furniture, 4 meters, rotate this 180, or rather, what we want to do in this case is transform scale -1 over here. Let's add the kitchen. Make sure it's at 4 meters tall. Rotate. And move. Yeah, so we definitely need to make this building a bit wider because I'm noticing that there isn't enough space to put our dining room, and that's important, isn't it? To have our dining set inside of the place. So we're going to extend everything by 2 meters. And we're going to do that with 2 ways. First off, or even 4 meters. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now remember, all we need to do here is, well, not quite, 1, 2. So we're going to move this edge because it's mirrored. We also need to move the origin point 2 meters. Okay. And we need to do the same here. Move the origin point 2 meters. We've got almost everything except this facade, which is done with geometry nodes. So let's make sure we turn off origins. Go into our geometry nodes. So we're going to click here, geometry node editor. And we need to move this 2 meters. 2. in the y direction. Actually, sorry, 4 meters. There you go. So now we have adjusted our base shape. So let's go back to our floor plane here. And we've got extra 2 meters to work with, right? So 1, 2. There you go. That's much, much more comfortable. In fact, it might be too much, but that's okay. Rather have more space than less space, of course. That always varies, doesn't it? Like we can't say that always. Now the one thing that doesn't quite work that well is when we have, let's see if grid works better. Nope. So you see in this camera, we can only see the big grid. Even if we zoom in, the smaller grid is not there. So we might need to change this in smaller iterations by dragging the area that we've got over here in order to be able to be more precise. So let's duplicate now. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Shift S, selection to grid. Okay. And now with the way that we're doing this, like it's I've seen a lot of videos for people that are trying to do architecture, like just walls, you know, interiors, floors, walls, interiors in Blender. And there are many different ways to do it, including drawing something by you know, like a plane that you have to extrude and you do loop cuts. No way. You gotta be fast. You know, I don't have time to do that. I don't think anybody has the time. I do not recommend for anybody to do that because really the name of the game is speed and efficiency in architecture. I'm sure you guys are probably well aware of that. And the only way to be speedy and efficient is to be able to model quickly. Model quickly and on point. So I'm going to move these 2 meters down and this 2 meters down like that. So we have, you know, that's a fairly generous yeah, that's fairly generous here. And let's move these just to the middle here. And you see this way, we're basically like adding, it's almost as quick as Revit, right? We're just duplicating edges and making changes. So Shift D, scale to -1 to give back that its original scale. Shift D, move this over a little. Shift D. And you know, we can spend more time on making perhaps bathrooms and closets and things like that a little bit more generous. For now, I'm just going to do this fairly quickly just to show you the base idea of how I do these kinds of things. Okay. Now, what do we need here more? We need a shelf. So Shift D, rotate 180, put this at 4 meters. And put it somewhere over here. Okay. And we need a TV shelf, which is this, G. Rotate 180 and make sure it's at 4 meters tall. And we're going to put that here. And now we need some doors. So let's move that door somewhere over here. And the way that I do these doors, so there's different iterations, right? So we can design like a way for this to, with the box, that it subtracts itself. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, we're not going to do that just yet. However, there is one thing that I would like to do, which is go into edit mode in here, go into edit mode here as well. And actually we want to separate this door element out. So P, separate selection. We're going to keep that as separate. Now we're going to go to tool. You're going to have measured arc living in its own separate element, but I've sort of combined it, adjusted the code a little bit here so we can do that. And then, okay, so for lines, okay, I'm not exactly sure whether that's going to work or not because I never done it with these kinds of groups with dynamic lines, but let's just give it a try. So this object should now have a line, which it did before. I'm going to get rid of that just so it doesn't crash. And line weight, I'm going to give it something like 0.3. So if we go and show that, so the whole object actually has lines, which we want to get rid of. We just want this to have a line. There you go. So that's it. So tab to return. I'm not sure how well this will transfer over. I haven't experimented actually in this way, but at least everything is in the group, so we can try to experiment with what we've got going on there. Now let's duplicate this door. Just gonna go to move, and what I usually do is turn move and scale gizmos, so I can be even in select box and I can use them. So we got one here. I'm gonna turn off my snaps and Shift G. Now I'm going to go a bit faster and hope that's okay with you guys. And that's the toilet, that's the entrance, that's our bedroom. The next unit is going to be exactly the same. So let's duplicate these walls and scale them to -1, and they should go somewhere over here. Duplicate this, go, and you can see here my precision is being reduced a little bit because I'm doing this really fast. So rotate 180. And the idea is, if I'm showing this to a client, to have something ready and as quickly as possible, and for them to get an idea of what the building layout might look like without focusing too much on all the specifics. There you go. So quite fairly compact apartment layouts here. There's nothing too crazy. So let's make one of these bedrooms a bit more generous, rather bathrooms. Okay, and see, sometimes I accidentally quick tap when I have those and it goes into that. Now let's create a 3-bedroom unit on top. So the entrance is going to be somewhere over here. Again, 4 units, 4 units. Let's bring these all the way to the facade. Let's bring these two back 2 meters, maybe 1.8 meters. Duplicate this as a wall, duplicate this, put it over here as well. Yeah, that's the thing that I like really a lot about Blender, is that because I know my way around it, and once you get quick with understanding the hotkeys, it can become very, very fast at modeling things, even interiors, even architectural layouts. Yeah, and we don't want to worry too much about the precision of where these at, because in the end you're going to see we're going to do these with booleans, so it's going to work really nicely with the boolean modifier in geometry nodes, where everything is going to just align itself pretty perfectly. Not completely, but fairly. Now, hold on. I'm doing this. You know what? That's actually more efficient. If we have a bedroom on either side, and then we've got the living space over here, and then we just enter on one side. Yeah, okay. We'll keep it that way. Everybody has an opinion about architectural layouts, which is great. accept the fact that usually it's either homeowners that wants certain things in a very specific way, or yeah, so that's not a bed anymore. Now, ideally, if we're doing this kind of layout, we should probably have a bit more space also for the living area. However, these walls, they have to be sort of fixed at 4 meters, even though, you know, like we gotta have a structure here. So it's a sort of a long and thin column here, here, and maybe here and here. And then, you know, we're gonna have a column there, column there. I'm not gonna do like column layouts right now. So based on those columns, maybe we can sneak this in a little so there's a bit more space, but that kind of space also doesn't help us too much, does it? Because, or maybe we can have a column actually that's in that direction over here. So then we can bring that wall out over a bit more. So a lot goes into these. For now, I'm just gonna leave it like we've got here, with the idea that if we need to, we always know how to modify it. All right, so select box, and I'm not going to put doors absolutely everywhere. Also 90 and scale -1 and rotate 180 and also scale -1. And yeah, so we've got a 3-bedroom unit, and we've got a we've got a 2-bedroom unit, and we got a 1-bedroom unit, which is the most, let's say, typical situation. But hold on, these are shallower, aren't they? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meters, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meters. Okay. I thought something got shifted around a little bit here, so let's drag all this 1 meter. There you go. Now they're the same size. Is that the perfect size? Maybe, maybe not. But these kinds of practicalities become more important when we're dealing with actual sites. Whereas since this is quite sketchy, then that's all right. You know, we can say that this is about the right size. Okay. Great. And now we just carry on. So what do we want to duplicate here? So we should, yeah, we'll just carry exactly as we have. So let's duplicate this layout. And that should be exactly 16 meters. Duplicate this. 6 meters. Oh, a bit less. Okay. And duplicate this here, 12 meters. Now we can get even more granular and produce like a group. So basically in the way that we work as Revit, like this is one group and that's another group and so on. Once it gets more complicated, that really depends on how well the floor plan is set. At some point, you know, when you add more detail and there's a very clear understanding of the unitization of the floor plans, then yep, we can go along that route. But at these early stages where everything is more still in planning, it's much better to do these fairly quickly and fairly sketchy. Now, I do wish I was a little better at selecting. Maybe, yeah, that's the one thing that I'm finding out is a bit of a struggle, is selecting those and this one ideally needs to be rotated, is selecting the group elements, especially the doors. Yeah, because the 3D part of the door is over here, which is not easy to select. That's pretty good. 12. But because they're all groups, then it makes it really nice and straightforward to duplicate. I don't need to even worry about what I think is linked to what is not. And these walls should be aligned. We can do better than that. Vertex. Okay. We have some kind of mumbo jumbo here. So X dissolve, that's better. Let's just make sure this is all straight because I don't think I did it as completely straight. Okay. And what do we have here? So we've got like, we can have a 3-bedroom at the end. These are always nice, aren't they? So we've got a wall here. So that's going to be a 2-bedroom. So here we're going to have a 2-bedroom. And on this side, let's see if we can fit a 3-bedroom. It's going to be a little bit difficult to fit exactly a 3-bedroom, except maybe 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it does fit. All right. That one is just smaller, maybe like an office. Now we got this kind of space over here, which is a fair play as well. In fact, we have it also on the other side. Oh, all right. So we do have a lift and a stair that need to go somewhere. So we do have to adjust some things here. Anyways, so I'm not going to worry too much about that right now because I think it's more important for me to show you the actual workflow. Otherwise, this apartment here, maybe it's just a 1-bedroom. Well, you know what? Come on, we can do it. We can finish this up. Where's my lift? Some things though do get a little bit harder to see, especially even that this is which box, 2.5 by 1.6. No, 4 by 2. So that's stair core stair, and we need core lift. Okay. So let's go back to our floor plan. And actually that fits really conveniently well in here because we can then get rid of, or just rather move these walls over here on both sides. And we don't need a bathroom on both sides. We just have a bathroom on one side. And same here. Put these doors somewhere over here. Adjust these walls slightly. And that wall, this table is going to go here. Maybe this is going to get rotated this way also. And we're gonna have the door to the second bedroom over here. So lift, stair. Stair might need to be a little bit larger and the lift a little smaller, but we can do that. We can do it all. So let's move this 1.8 meters. There you go. And there's some kind of shaft over here. Great. Now that's getting a little too dirty even for my taste. So let's get rid of this edge and move this edge here. Same here. X edges. And let's finish this up. That's gonna go somewhere over here. We need some more kitchens. Also on this side. Let's get rid of this. Oops. X edge. And we can make sure that this is aligning kind of nicely and extrude it to here. Let's bring all this. It's going to be rotated. So that's the kitchen. Bathroom. We do need some storage space in there also, but that can either go within the bathroom. Also, I'm using 0.2 mil doors, so they're quite large. So there are different ways of laying out plans in Blender. There's also Archipack. However, Archipack is paid. It's not much though, it's $50 euros, $50 or euros. And it does offer really nice features for that, which are basically drawing walls and creating floor plans. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We need a door here. And yeah, this is the first run. I'm sure that this plan can be optimized a lot. So I'm going to get rid of this X edge and extrude that just so we have a nicer corner situation. I try to make the corners as much as I can into continuous walls. Okay, but we do have one issue here, which is bathroom. We might want to do the same thing that we were doing in other units, which is to swap out the living space with this. So then we're going to have a very nice place to put on our bathroom. X edge, extrude, and extrude. And we can get rid of this face. Also, that wall, that door can be here. Oh, and we have this space. So that's a lot of space. That's a lot of interesting space. So let's separate this. And move this out. So that could be another bathroom, basically. And we could even align this to over here. So this is a very nice, it could even be a 3-bedroom, can't it? Now we have a extra vertex over here. Yeah, so the door is somewhere over here. We've got like something there, and that could be either an office, a bedroom, a bathroom, you name it. So we have a pretty nice layout. Let's put this wall over here, right a door, and the last door that we're going to put in goes over here. Great. So we need this door to be here, and we need another door. First off, let's rotate this door 180. Let's move this slightly. Now these doors might be too large for internal doors. They're 900mm doors, which is standard doors, but interior doors outside of the main entrance, they tend to be a little bit smaller. That's okay for now. Great, so we've got a plan. We're missing a couple of dining tables. So let's duplicate them. This one is coming out tricky now though. Like, where do we put the dining table? Some of these are too small, but I'm just using the standards that we have these days for more or less for modules. But at the same time, we have a very generous bedroom. Now, because we're trying to keep it modular, that's why the distances are 4. Usually, you know, we'll try to stack all the bedrooms on top of other bedrooms and the living rooms on top of other living rooms. So then the columns, the structure can stay a bit more fixed and the sizes are a bit better. Cool. So let's see how this plan looks now. So we have to go into Eevee. When we try to do this in Cycles, it's all shaded, and we're not in Cycles right now. That's why we can't really see it. And let's edit the edge of this slab. Am I editing the right thing? Yeah. Just curious why I couldn't select it. And that's extra 4 meters. So let's go back to our view now. Excellent. So we've got a working plan. Now, how do we add line weights? And that's a really exciting part, because with Measure It Arc, it becomes really easy. First off, always a good idea to save. We have the view set up, which we did in the beginning of this chapter. And now we need to go, we can do it here, into Tool. For you, it will be Measure It Arc. And we have the wall selected, line style. So we have to pick a line style. Line style 1 is 1, and add a dynamic line. So now we see the lines, but we have these issues, right, of elements that are intersecting. So it doesn't look very clean. So, but we can make that look really clean really quickly with a Boolean modifier. So we will add a geometry nodes, create a new one. By the way, you see this and this are kind of the same here. And I realized I was covering a part of it. So add a modifier, geometry nodes. And then add mesh Boolean. Drop it in here. Intersect, or rather union. Change this to exact, self-intersection, and holes. And now that should work exactly like we need it to. However, there might be a few settings that we need to do with Measure It Arc in order for this to show up correctly. So let's go to line style 1 and name it wall. So I am in scene settings, Measure It Arc, and all the way down here. So wall settings, it's asking us line weight 1 is fine. Z offset is okay. Round caps we don't want. We want to draw this in the front. We want to evaluate the depth graph. And you see, once we do that, then it starts to fix all these kinds of mistakes that we have there. And depth test, we want to do a depth buffer. So now that's all set up. So then how do we get this like view out? Now, the only thing that's not quite working are the doors, right? We do have them somewhere in there, but they're all inside of the space. And let's actually go in here and just see what's going on here. Where are we? We went too far. There you go. We can change, by the way, here in the view focal length. Let's go to like something like 20. So we can start to see this a bit better. We actually don't have any of the other floors. We haven't modeled them yet, right? So that's all right for us. By the way, we have more. I've given more space than we need to for the core and the lift, but that's quite okay. Even this kind of view works really well, except my doors seem to have completely vanished. I wonder where they've gone. I might have modeled them at a different location. Let's see. Yes, I forgot to put them at 4 meters. So let's see if we can do this. So Shift G, select grouped siblings. Nope. Shift G, select grouped collection. No. Shift G. Interesting. Light type. Okay, so we won't be able to do it this way, but we can do it another way, which is we know that we have all the doors here. So let's select them all, and we're going to move them all up to our indicated height. Okay, so we got them all here, and let's press 4 and Alt Enter so it changes them all. And now let's just double check, and great, that worked. So let's go back to our rendered view, and they do come up. Now I do wonder if they're going to actually render out, because we did specify an outline. So a way to figure that out is to hide the outlines. And it seems like they won't really come out. Unfortunately, yeah, so these lines, they won't come out unless, yes, I know how to make them come out. Figuring it out on the job. So because we've created a group, that means that, and because we created a separate object here, if I select just this object and give it a wireframe modifier, it doesn't matter what thickness, 0.05, and let's go and add a new material, which is black, and delete all the other materials. There. And now that should give us the thickness that we're actually looking for. So now if we go to our view, wait a minute. And we might want to move this a little higher. Let's see. This here. Let's just move it. Well, it should be 4, but let's move it 0.1. And let's change the thickness to 0.1 meters here. And we want to make this a boundary. Now, I wonder that because this is not a face, maybe that's, yes, that's why I didn't do it. Now it is a face. So 0.02, which is way too thick. And we can delete the line work here. There. Let's make it even thinner now, 0.01 meters. Excellent. So now that should work pretty well. So we're ready to render out our plan. And because we have it all set up, what we need to do is go into measure into output, and we want measure it arc vector. Now we have a couple of things to check before we're done here. First off, in our view settings, we want to make sure we're using Eevee, otherwise it's going to take too long. 150, that's fine. And we want to, let's make this a little bit wider, embed the scene render and use the vector depth test. So the scene render is going to be a backdrop, and that's going to be exactly what we see here as part of our layout. So let's go ahead and go back into here and measure it arc vector. Now measure it arc can also output, we can put notes, we can put text, we can label this, but this is the most important aspect of working with it. So let's see how it looks. Out, renders, and view 001. It's looking pretty good. Of course, we can further modify this. Now, so because our doors are actually not vector data, they're not looking as nice and as smooth as the rest of it. And we're using 150 DPI where our floor plan is not terribly big. So we can go in here and let's try making this higher DPI, maybe not 200% because that's 4 times as big, but we're going to try and do it with 200 DPI. See if that's going to be a bit cleaner. And now I'm going back into here and measure it arc vector. Really, really important. You have to use Eevee for this. Otherwise, these massive renderings, even if they're fairly simple, are going to take a bit too much time to render. Whereas this is not instantaneous, but it takes less than a minute. And that's it. So with this, we conclude this course. Hopefully you guys found some value. If you do, please let me know. And hopefully you feel more comfortable with approaching concept design with Blender. And just to summarize it, we started with, I'm trying to find my output here. We started with these kinds of quick massings. Then we learned how to do more parametric facade tests and studies based on modules for the panels. Then we learned about rendering, about materiality, to give it a bit more materiality. And then we went directly into modeling. And with Measure It Arc, this becomes quite a fun job. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and see you next time.